some of these books say that the Christians swiped this whole concept of resurrection from the mystery religions. Okay, the dying and rising of the gods there. Hit that one.
Well, just a disjunct here. Virtually no scholars will make that move. They'll say, oh, little things here and there, but no one takes this theory wholesale. But if you go on some of the non-Christian websites, the real radical ones, it's all over those websites. But you go to the critical scholars, they don't go there. Why? Because while there are pre-Christian religions, Isis and Osiris predates Christianity. While there are pre-Christian resurrections, we have at present, we have no knowledge of a pre-Christian resurrection in those stories. In other words, the earliest resurrection account we have is Adonis, and the manuscripts are 2nd century AD. Next best shot we have is Attis, 3rd century AD. They're post-Christian. Now, somebody might say, well, beg to differ with you. You already said Isis and Osiris is pre-Christian. There's a resurrection there. No. And you know what? What's interesting here, Helmut Kester, who's part of this, the Gnostic
at Harvard.
He says, in his 2-volume work on New Testament introduction, he says it's good to keep in mind that no text ever says that Osiris was resurrected. So plus we have to plug that into this discussion of what resurrection means. Talk spirit, talk Scrooge seeing the ghost, talk that. People believe those things happened in the ancient world, but they didn't use the word anastasis. So there's no parallel for people to say, oh, they copied off Jesus. In fact, the most recent book on this by a Scandinavian scholar on the recent state of this says anybody who says that there's a pre-Christian resurrection is a maverick among recent critical scholars. The book was just released.
All right. Go personal on me, okay? 2 personal things in your life. Wrap up this program. Let's get it down. The rubber hits the road, okay? You were a skeptic going to Michigan State, and the facts brought you to faith in Jesus Christ. Then you experienced this whole thing of the resurrection in the dying of your wife, okay? Explain what I was talking about. You put it in your own words here. Tell the folks, share with them what you found out.
Well, when I was going through this period of doubting, I debated Christians. I got them pretty angry. And my mother called me at one point during this and said, how do you come with your doubts? And I said, I think I'm a few months away from converting to Buddhism. And, she wasn't real thrilled. But, and here's what I thought. My conclusion at that time was you can believe resurrection. There's even some pretty good data for resurrection, but you can't close the door on it. There's too many other options to say the resurrection is what happened. Well, I did my doctoral dissertation on the resurrection, and I kind of used that as the ending period symbolically of my questions. But then many years later, I finished my PhD in '76, almost to the year, 20 years later, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. I thought to myself, great, probably my doubts are going to come back. I'm going to fight 2 battles. And they never did. And I'm really thankful to the Lord for that. But during the time with my wife, I realized how personal resurrection faith could be. I had these discussions with the Lord. She's upstairs. She's sleeping 18 hours a day. I had a child monitor up there, and I went and sat out on the porch, and my kids were in school. And Lord, why? Debbie's 43 years old, and I've got 4 children. What's going on here? And I picture kind of a Job 38 kind of why, and God says to me, well, did I raise my son from the dead? I thought, oh, Lord, I've done 13 books on this topic of the resurrection alone. Yeah, I'm going to be true to my books. Yeah, right. But can we talk about Debbie? Gary. If you were to ask me a question, right? Gary, did I raise my son from the dead? And to make a long story short, I realized that what God would say to me is, if this is a world in which Jesus was raised from the dead in 30-ish AD, this is a world in which Jesus has been raised from the dead no matter what year it is. And it's 1995. It doesn't change the fact that he's been raised from the dead. As a card I received in those days they said, can you wait for that day when hand in hand you'll be able to walk with your wife down the paths of heaven? To me, that's the New Testament teaching of resurrection. Almost 20 times we are told that believers will be raised like Jesus. Paul said he'll take our vile body and make it like it his glorious body. That's the resurrection hope, eternal life with the God of the universe.
Next week, we're going to continue this conversation, and we want to hit this area, was Jesus married to Mary Magdalene? Okay, and I can't think of any 2 guys I'd rather ask that question to, because you've read all these documents, and We're going to talk about that. And did Constantine, did he actually invent the deity of Jesus Christ in 325, the Council of Nicaea, like the Da Vinci Code says? We'll hit those two questions next week. I hope you'll join us.